In today's entry in the mini acrylic board painting series, I am experimenting with a daisy-shaped cookie cutter and two leaf-shaped cookie cutters. I will be using Liquitex Basic paints mixed in a 1 part paint, 2 parts water, and 3 parts Floetrol mixture. And I will be using the following colors: light blue permanent, cerulean blue, titanium white, phthalo green, light green permanent, brilliant yellow green, pale pink, copper, and gold. The copper and gold are metallic colors. Other items you may want for this painting include a surface protection such as a silicone mat or plastic sheeting, gloves, paper towels, palette knife, a stir stick, bamboo skewer, or something that you can use to draw into your paint. Even the end of a paintbrush will work for this, and of course a handheld torch. To start off, I start by putting my flower-shaped cutter into the center of my painting to decide where I want it. I also position the leaves around it as well. Once I'm happy with their placement, I begin drizzling my colors around it, the blues and white in the sky, and the greens underneath it in the grass area. After I've nearly covered the surface, excluding the area inside the cutters with my paint, I take my palette knife, which is a thin tapered palette knife, and begin gently mixing and bringing the colors together. Once I have the surface mostly covered, I temporarily remove the leaf shapes and allow my knife to fill them in with the paint as well. I do not, though, want the green and blue paint to be underneath where my flower will be, as that could cause my pink later on to muddy, and I do not want that. Once I have the background done, I begin putting in the flower. I start by layering in some white so that if the colors bleed out into the blue and the green, the white will be the first color to hit them, which means I will not have any mudding effect, I will just have a softening effect on the colors. I then layer in my pink, my copper, and my gold. Once I have the colors in that I want, I gently remove the cutter and allow the paint to settle for a couple minutes before I take a stir stick and begin gently drawing out the petals. It's important to wipe your stir stick in between each swipe so that you avoid accidentally dragging blue or green back into the middle of your flower. Once I have a few petals drawn out, I stop and I torch the whole area as I realize there are several air bubbles. And the reason that this can be a problem is that once your painting has set up and dried, these air bubbles will create a pockmarked and stippled surface. The other reason you want to torch, though, is because it pops those bubbles and then allows the underlayer surfaces of paint to be visible, causing what we call suds to appear, which add all kinds of neat visual effects. Once I am satisfied with the petals on the outside, I take my stick and start dragging the copper and gold band towards the inside of the flower. This creates the illusion of a layer of stamens sticking out between two layers of petals. Later on, I will intensify this illusion by adding in another layer of copper and gold to the center, but for now, I'm content to just draw out this layer of stamens and then I go to work on the leaves. I start by positioning my leaves roughly where I want them once again, and then I can take my 3 green colors and spoon them inside the cutters, covering the surface with them. I want the leaves to be a bit brighter and less muddied than the underneath surface layers so that they stand out. To help create a little bit of variety, once I have all 3 colors in, I take my stir stick and gently drag it through to also create kind of the indication of a leaf vein. When I'm done, I gently lift and pull away the cutter, allowing the paint to spill out in the direction in which I lift it towards. It doesn't perfectly retain the shape of the cutter, but I wasn't aiming for that in the first place. I then come in with my palette knife and touch up any odd edges, helping to shape and sculpt the edges of my leaves. Now I turn my attention back to the flower. I do want a center that's a little bit more pronounced, and I want a little bit more of the copper and gold. So I carefully reposition my original cookie cutter in the center, and I add in white, copper, and gold. Instead of removing the cutter though, I leave it where it is, so I have the little shapes of the petals as a guide. And I take my palette knife and start dragging my metallic colors into each of the petal shapes. Whenever I remove it, this creates the illusion of stamens sticking out from the center. The end result is not quite what I envisioned, but it kind of looks like the center of the flower is curling around itself, which is very neat. Finished now with the flower, I turn my attention back to touching up the grass in the foreground. I don't want anything to be as sharply in focus as the flower itself, but I would like a little bit more definition in the area. I start by taking some of my palest green on my palette knife and drawing in the stem for the flower, as well as the central vein and the stems for the leaves. I then, using the various greens that I have, start making random marks and swipes with the knife to indicate roughly blades of grass and other things that might be growing in the background. Switching to the rounded end of my stir stick, I go in and I soften some areas that seem like they're a little bit too streaky from the palette knife strokes. Using it helps to soften these areas, and I also use it to drag some of the blues further down into the green without muddying them too much.